background of being a full-time organiser in the National Union of Public Employees, organising all of those members of the union, good catering workers and all the other grades. And that surely is a message and a lesson that we can give to all our youngsters. And then I was also given a wonderful leaflet from the Derbyshire WASPI group. Thank you very much for that. And what they've suggested is that today is Transport Tuesday. We should make tomorrow WASPI Wednesday. So thanks for that leaflet. Thanks for the campaign that you're doing, because once again, it's women who are being asked to pay the price, women who are being told they're going to be worse off when they retire later, women who are not given any transitional opportunities throughout that. I'm with the WASPI campaign. Well done on being here today and what you've said. And then I was given a leaflet saying, keep the guard on the train, keep the train safe, from our friends in the RMT and the other rail unions as well who are supporting this. This morning we started early. We were at London Bridge Station. And I have to say, some of the commuters that came off the Brighton line, I don't blame them for being upset and angry, because if you've stood for an hour on a train, paid through the nose for the ticket, and the Metro and the Evening Standard are telling you that all your problems, your high fare, your overcrowding, your delayed train, your cancelled train, and all the other things are somehow or other the fault of the RMT, ASLEF and TSSA, and you come out of the station and you see RMT, ASLEF and TSSA banners, you think, yeah, they're the people that caused all my trouble, so let's go and have it out with them. Well, a few people turned up and they said, well, they were quite angry. I don't blame them for being angry. So what then happened was a very interesting conversation and discussion. And we were able to point out that Southern Rail has made increased profits over the past half year, that its directors have increased their pay over the past year, that dividend payments have increased over the past year, that hundreds of trains have been cancelled over the last few months, and they're trying to reduce the number of staff so you have driver-only trains on a very busy, very crowded route. Is it not the responsibility of those that work on the trains to point out to the public what they see as, quite rightly, the dangers of all this, hence the campaign they're mounting? Our view is the government should intervene on this. They should intervene where the franchises are clearly not being adhered to, and at the end of every franchise, let's bring it back into public ownership and have a publicly owned rail system. So keeping guards on trains is only part of it. And so in this campaign, we're putting forward 10 positive policy areas and policy points of how we could do things better and differently in the future. This is not the last word in a manifesto. Last year, we put out a lot of policy ideas for consultation. And you know what? Thousands and thousands of people have replied. Some have agreed with them, some have disagreed with them, some have put up alternative ideas, some have put up completely different ideas. Surely that is what democracy is about. That is what you get when you have a party membership of well over 500,000 people engaged and active in politics. And so let's look at, I won't go through all of them, but just look at some of them. Deal with issues of rights at work and employment. There is something strange about modern Britain, that we're in breach of International Labour Organization conventions on employment law in Britain. I want us to have a Labour government that says, the starting point, we will adhere to all ILO conventions. We would demand it of every other country in the world. Why don't we carry it out ourselves? And then look at the levels of job insecurity. 18 countries in Europe have outlawed the whole idea of 0 hours contracts. Let's do the same here. That level of insecurity in work has to be dealt with. It is very difficult to plan anything in your life if you don't know when you're going to work, how much you're going to be paid for it, and what you're going to get next week, the week after that. You're hanging on, waiting for your mobile to ring to say, please come to work. You get halfway there and they ring you back and say, sorry, we don't really need you after all today. So you've lost money hanging around, you've lost money on travelling, and you haven't got any pay as a result of it. And so when we campaign on these issues, things do begin to change. Last year and this year in the USA, the very biggest unions there campaigned for a $15 an hour minimum wage. They campaigned both politically as well as industrially. Campaigned on a $15 an hour minimum for fast food workers in McDonald's and all the other big chains. And do you know what? They've won it in a very large number of states. They've forced the Democratic Party to support that in their convention statement. And last weekend they had a low-paid workers conference in Richmond, Virginia, and they asked me to send a message of solidarity to them. And I was proud to do it and proud to say we're on the same page, the same place, the same side. We want a decent £10 an hour living wage in this country. We want an end to the poverty-paying conditions in the fast food industry where so many huge profits are being made. But then you look at other aspects of employment practices in Britain. Chris and I have a great friend, I'm sure many of you do also have a great friend, Dennis Skinner, MP for Bolsover. And Dennis is a great supporter of this campaign. And Dennis did a very brilliant, very short intervention in Parliament. His most brilliant ones are the very short ones. You know, the one that begins with D and ends in Y. He intervened on a speech John McDonnell was making and said he worked in Shirebrook Colliery. When he worked there, it was a mine. When he worked there, they were all in the union. When he worked there, they all had recognised pay and conditions. When he worked there, they all had rights of representation, rights to health and safety. They had a welfare system. They had a welfare community. There was a strong sense of unity in the mining community. Unity because people need to be very strongly in support of each other in a dangerous place like a pit, but also because that was the whole spirit of the place and the community. The Tories and Thatcher couldn't stand that sense of unity and community. That's why they went after the mining industry in the 1980s. That's why they destroyed the coal mining industry in this country. And Shirebrook. Shirebrook is a warehouse run by Sport Direct. Shirebrook is a warehouse run by Sport Direct that even an all-party select committee in Parliament found to be grossly wanting in health, in safety, in conditions of work, and indeed not even paying the minimum wage to the people that work there. And the ambulance and the fire tender frequently called there because of dangers in that place of work. Doesn't that say something about modern deregulated Britain? That an efficient place of work, working together with full rights of work, was efficient and was well managed, and is replaced by this kind of spiff culture that goes on there. Well, I tell you this, our Workplace 2020 is about changing that, is about getting rid of the concept of 0 hours contracts and insecurity at work, is about giving rights of representation, rights of trade union membership, and rights to live in a decent society, but also rights to work in a decent and safe working environment. This government cuts health and safety. We will invest in health and safety to protect all workers on building sites and elsewhere in this country. But it's also about the kind of economy that we want and the productive work that we want. Derby is famous as a manufacturing industrial centre. So much has been produced and is produced here. You've got iconic names here. And I'm so pleased that so much work done by Chris and others to protect the train manufacturing facility in Derby is paid off with those new orders for construction of trains here in Derby. This is a place that built so much of our railway system and will continue to do so. Likewise, Rolls-Royce is a major employer and what it does in Derby and so many others. But we also need to recognise that as a country we've got to harness the skills that everybody has. That means investment in improving infrastructure all over the country. Why is it The northeast particularly is so starved of capital investment compared to what goes in the south. Why is it it's taken so long to force the government to recognise the needs to electrify the Midland Main Line? Why is it it's taken so long to get investment spread across the whole country? So our proposal is a £500 billion national investment bank that will invest in the infrastructure we need, will invest in broadband technology, but will also invest in new products and product development. So instead of us in this country discovering, inventing and creating new ideas and new products, which are never manufactured here but sent somewhere else to be manufactured, instead we'll have a public stake in it and it's by that investment strategy. And for those that are understandably concerned about future of defence spending, and in particular my views on nuclear weapons and Trident, I say this: I understand I am very opposed to, but I want to make sure there is a proper defence diversification strategy with public investment going in to ensure that it's not a way of cutting jobs, it's a way of ensuring that those skills are used fully in manufacturing industry in all areas in the future. And I'm very, very clear and very determined about that. So it's about an expanding economy to create decent, good quality jobs for all. But you do that by also looking at our education service and our health service and the inequalities that go with it in society. Too many of our children start life with a big handicap. They can't get proper nursery or preschool facilities. Either their parents can't afford it, they're not eligible for it, or they only get a few hours a week. Those preschool years are so important for children, growing up together, understanding each other, beginning to understand social interactions and all the human skills they need to develop. Let's make sure place a decent start. And then later on, when youngsters leave school and go to college or go to university or want to get an apprenticeship, a number of things happen. One is, some do very well, get to university, get a good degree, and well done them and good luck to them. But why do we then saddle them with a debt of £50,000 or £60,000 at the end of it? As Chris said, what we've done is turn education into a commodity. Can't we instead say education is a right for all of us that we really want? And also ensure that some apprenticeships are absolutely brilliant and really good. The best companies do really good apprenticeships, really good training, and a pittance of a rate, a minimum wage, the youth minimum rate, and say there is a minimum rate for everybody. You eat just as much as when you're 25 or 35. Or in my experience, young people of 18 eat a great deal more than older people. So it is a question of ensuring that apprenticeships are good quality and good training and good qualifications at the end of it, but also not necessarily age limited. I've been to some colleges which are taking much older apprenticeships where people want to retrain. Surely all of that is good. Let's change the attitude towards education and ensure that, as Chris pointed out, when somebody is well educated and well qualified, it's good for them, of course, but it's also good for all of us. Good for all of us when people are well qualified and able to contribute to society. So inequality starts with discrimination in education. Discrimination on the basis of areas and income. Let's give those decent, good opportunities to everyone. If you live in a poor